see if you have meditation beads too. Look at that. Hey, you guys are great. Okay. Just so I do a little, get an understanding of where to begin, what, which level. How many of you are not familiar with Bhagavad Gita? A little bit. More than a little bit. Reasonable. Okay. A little bit. Familiar with Bhagavad Gita? Good. Okay. The other people I know, so I don't have to ask them. There's our title. If we could turn the lights down, it'll make the image look better, or easier to see it. There, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Bhagavad Gita is part of a vast body of wisdom literature from India. Looked like that before there was a printing press. Known as the Vedas. V-E-D-A. Veda means knowledge. So, just like in this university, I'm sure there's a big library. And in that library there's different departments, just like, the Department of History, Department of Medicine, Department of Architecture, the Department of Social Sciences, Department of Hard Sciences with different divisions, and so on. And the literature that covers those different topics that's in the library. Of course, each department has its library. So the Vedas has different departments of knowledge. Fascinating. Here's one. There's two. We'll talk about one of them as we go along. Astronomy. So there's a section of the Vedas that deals with astronomy that leads to cosmology, that leads to astrology. And it's very detailed, quantifiable science based upon latitude and longitude, understanding where the planets are and how far they are from this planet, and all kinds of interesting mathematical things. And they had all that understanding before there was technology. And as technology is progressing and progressing, the numbers that are within the Vedas are the current numbers are getting closer and closer to the Vedic numbers. What I mean is, so the Vedic, this is extra, I'm just sharing, not really on the topic. But just to get a picture of the wisdom of these literatures. The Vedic picture of cosmology is very similar to the Chinese picture of cosmology. I happen to know that because I looked at it a little bit. The picture is Earth-centered or geocentric. And so that's very ancient. And then passed over time, and Copernicus came along and said, no, heliocentric. And the distance between the Earth and the Sun is such and such a number. Approximate. He was only off by a factor of 100. And so, with the advancement of telescopes and so forth, now that number of the distance between the Earth and the Sun is getting closer and closer to the actual distance between the Earth and the Sun that matches the information from the Vedas. which you could calculate the position of planets in space by the geocentric model, which was simply relative motion. In other words, the equations are different. You fill in the numbers, and you get the same configuration of what's going on in the stars in the sky above you. So the calculation was from the point of observation, from the Earth-centered point of observation, and from that position calculating where everything is up in space, in the sky. Very precise, without technology. No question. How'd they get that information? You know, today it's Hubble scopes mounted on spaceships that go and take pictures and send the images back to the scientists that know how to read them, and they can calculate things based on that empiric data. They didn't have that technology, so how do they know these numbers? Here's the answer. There's ascending knowledge, and the Vedas is descending knowledge. Just like I remembered to turn my cell phone off. I hope you also did. Because if you didn't, and somebody's sending you a signal, the signal can be from some other side of the planet. And cell phones have basically three things. There's a broadcaster or transmitter. There's a receiver, and there's a little amplifier. And you can make it, double amplifier put on your speakerphone, but you can hear, send, receive, and then broadcast, so make the sound. Just as a cell phone has that capacity, the Vedas works on that same principle. Here's what the Vedas say. I hope you don't mind my being a professor for a little bit here. The Vedas say that time moves matter, and time moves in cycles. And there's small ones, and there's medium ones, and there's big ones. Just like, the cycle of seasons, summer, fall, winter, spring. For these, then in India there's 6 seasons, but however the number, they cycle, and it's predictable what's going to be in the next cycle, what's going to be in the next cycle. Ahead of time, because it cycles. Similarly, the Vedas say that time of the whole cosmic manifestation is also cyclical. There's a period of resting where the whole of the material energy is in this dormant state, and then it becomes activated. There's details of how that happens. And then there's the cosmic manifestation and maintained for some time. The time energy is withdrawn and the whole thing collapses back to a resting state for an equal duration. And then cycles again, and cycles again. And there's details of the cycles. And there's smaller ones within those bigger ones. Why am I sharing this? Because according to the Vedas, whether it's during the manifest period of the cosmos or the dormant period, there's something that exists beyond the temporary. There's this broadcaster, the transmitter, from a transcendental realm, transcendental meaning, beyond matter, beyond time and space, time as we know it, past, present, and future kind of time. And that's the Vedas. They're eternally existing. And then the cosmos comes into being. And then there are some people, very qualified people, that have a receiver. They're called rishis, and they can receive this signal, this sound vibration, and then they make the sound. So there's the transmitter, the receiver, and they make the sound. And then they teach their students. And then their students learned, because memories were better, previous ages, and they passed it on in that way. And then after some time, memories became diminished as part of one of the smaller cycles, and so things had to be written. They didn't have printing presses that looked like this. There was like an instrument, sharp instrument, a stylus, would make scratches on certain prepared leaves, and when it would dry, then you'd have the page. And then they put the pages together like this with wooden slats on the end and tied them up, and now you have the Vedas. Then came the printing press, and now it looks like this. But originally it's sound. And it's a transcendental sound. It's a sound that exists even before the cosmos exists. And it exists after the cosmos is finished. And it exists during the present time. And it's manifest this way. Or this way. Or by sound. So within that vast body of the Vedas, there's Bhagavad Gita. It fits in there. I could give some details. But its special focus is on the yoga system. Its special focus is on elevation of consciousness through the yoga system. Because that's the purpose of yoga. And most people, commonly today, when they think of yoga, they think of primarily two things. Asanas. Any of you do yoga? Asanas. You go to yoga class and get down your yoga mat and you do the asanas. And then the other is pranayama. Breath. Prana means life air. And those two, asanas and pranayama, are two parts of an eightfold yoga system that's described in chapter 6, because that's one of the yoga systems. Ashtanga yoga, you've heard that term? Ashta means eight, anga means limbs. The eightfold yoga system, Ashtanga yoga, chapter 6, Bhagavad Gita. That doesn't give you illustrations of asanas in here. It's just describing principles. The principles of that yoga system. And the purpose of that yoga system, elevation of consciousness. Chapter 3, Karma Yoga. Everyone's heard karma, probably in the English dictionary now. Karma means work, or action, reaction. And there's a system of performing work that results in elevation of consciousness. There's some details which I don't need to go into on that. This isn't a Bhagavad Gita class. I'm trying to give you a background. Samkhya Yoga, Gyan Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, different yoga systems that are compared to a staircase or a ladder. And the top rung of that ladder is called Bhakti Yoga. And it's all the rungs, all the yoga system is meant to elevate consciousness. And now I'm going to get to the title. Here's another Sanskrit word found in Bhagavad Gita and this vast body of the Vedas. Can you close the door? Nirvana. You heard the term? Anyone not heard the term? Here's what it means. Nir means not, and vana literally means forest. So it's cessation of material existence, getting out of the forest of material existence. Nirvana. Cessation of material existence. So nirvana is a term that was popularized through Buddhism, because the goal of Buddhism is to cease material existence. In Buddhism, the teaching, one of the principal teachings is the root cause of suffering is desire. Root cause of suffering, this is Buddhism, which is slightly different than Bhagavad Gita. I'll explain the difference between yoga and nirvana. Root cause of suffering, desire. Want to become free from suffering? Become free from desire. How do you become free from desire? keeping it really simple. There's different brands of Buddhism out there. But basically two things. Live a life of goodness. That's the incubation chamber for, nonviolence, compassion, charity, kindness, life of goodness, simplicity, live in harmony with nature, mode of goodness. And that's what you do externally, and then internally is mindfulness. Very popular word. I came to find out because I was asked to speak about it. Mindfulness, it's different terms say the same thing, but be present, be in the moment. Be in the moment because that's all there is the moment. The previous moment is gone. And the next moment hasn't happened yet, and the one that we're in is going to be gone in a moment. So all there is the moment. Be in the moment. Mindfulness. The past, this is a Bhagavad Gita message, the past, lamenting over it, worrying about it, obsessing about it, etc., is a mode of ignorance. And making a plan for future enjoyment, that's a mode of passion. And then there's the mode of goodness, just being present, being very mindful, so awareness goes up, and you're just in the moment. The goal of that is to go beyond the moment. What's that? That's Nirvana. And enlightenment, the stage of Buddha, which has the same Sanskrit root word as buddhi in Bhagavad Gita. Intelligence. The one is enlightened. And in that state of enlightenment, what do? Nothing. Because you stop material existence. In fact, you don't even exist anymore because the existence was the moment and you went beyond the moment. So you're in this, the goal is Nirvana, which is void. So the yoga system takes one beyond cessation of material existence. That's the topic, beyond Nirvana. What do you do when you've completed the journey of material existence and the other side of material existence? The Vedas disclose you recognize who you really are instead of who you aren't, and then you engage in activities on the transcendental plane that's in harmony with this transcendental wisdom, both how to get there and what's it like when you get there. So this is an image ahead of myself, but the Nirvana image, just be in the moment and be in the moment and go beyond the moment into this Nirvana state. Mindfulness is influenced by these modes of nature. We want to be over here as much as possible, goodness. We have to make some plans for what we're going to do with our lives. That's fine. But we operate in the mode of goodness. We maintain this countenance of goodness without all the details, because the details are in Bhagavad Gita. In the 6th chapter, I mentioned that already, that's this Ashtanga Yoga system. The asanas and pranayama, that's in the first half. So what comes after that is another 4. The terms are pratyahara, dhyana, dharana, and samadhi. Meditation, meditation, and meditation, and meditation. Degrees of absorption in meditation up to the stage of samadhi, which means trance. And in describing what that samadhi is, those of you that don't have a copy of Bhagavad Gita, please take one home with you and read it. because if you take one home with you, that's the commitment, you gotta read it. But in the 6th chapter, this Ashtanga Yoga chapter, there's this description of what samadhi is. And it says, internal experience is experience of happiness within, contentment within, not just peace, but a positive joy, transcendental happiness, not the temporary fleeting kind that you experience. And there's the winding down of the mistaken conception of who you thought you were, and then the awakening of the conception of who you really are. And then finally comes this one. You'll find it in that section of Bhagavad Gita. The Sanskrit phrase is Swa Rupena Vyavastati. Swa means one's own, and Rupa means form. You realize who you are with spiritual form, not the form that's, like our garment that we put it on at the end of the day we take it off and put on another set of garments the next day. So not like the transmigration of the soul, where we have lifetime this one, and then undergo some changes, and then we discard it and get another one, and then another one. So it's not a covering of who we are, it's who we are. That's Swarupa. And Vyavastati, that's what we do in that Swarupa, that spiritual form. The permanent situation of the form of the living entity after he gives up the changeable, gross and subtle material bodies. Now, one can realize one's spiritual identity even within the current body. But when the current body is finished, two things could happen. Depends on what you're attached to. If you're attached to the temporary, you take another birth. You go to another situation with another mother, father, and another, who knows, different species of life. Can be higher, can be lower, could be again human form. No certainty. It depends on our karma. Everyone knows that word. And the modes of nature, like goodness, passion, ignorance, depending upon those, whatever you're attached to, that's where you go. What you're attached to is how you've lived your life, the free will choices you've made moment to moment to moment, and that mindfulness effort. And if you're not trying to be mindful, you're just moved by your karma and the modes of nature. Like a piece of wood floating on the ocean, and the waves go up, you go up. The waves go down, you go down, and you're tossed around by the waves. But transcendental, the yoga system, is to take one above that condition, material condition, and manifest fully your spiritual svarup, your spiritual form. A nice example of this is pictured here. It's an illustration of something that's in a companion literature of Bhagavad Gita called Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a great sage named Narada, and he's telling his student about his previous life. In his previous life, he was a simple boy, an orphan, didn't even know who his father was, and his mother died when he was just a little boy. But before his mother died, he was helping his mother, taking care of great sages, because in India there's a rainy season, and during the rainy season they were staying at an inn, and his mother and the little boy were helping them take care of their needs, their meals and their clothing and their, basic necessities. So this little boy, he was always with them, and he heard them, and he associated with them. He was gentle, and so they taught him the process of Ashtanga Yoga, and he did it, and he became a perfected person, from obscurity to perfected person. He lived that way his whole life, and at the time of death, when the soul leaves the body, that's what death is, he manifested his Swarup. And there's many descriptions about Narada Muni. He has this stringed instrument, Veena, and with it he travels. He plays the instrument and sings, vibrates spiritual sounds, mantras, and he has freedom. So Bhagavad Gita is teaching, the whole of the yoga system is teaching how to go beyond the misconception of self to realize the true conception of self, and eventually, beyond cessation of material existence, enter into this, I keep it simple, the realm of higher consciousness. An image that's meaningful to me, I'll share with you why. The person who's, I read 7 translations of Bhagavad Gita before I even found this one, or it found me, and I couldn't understand them. I knew it was deep, and profound, but I couldn't understand it. When I started reading this one, it was really easy. And I was wondering why the other 7 I couldn't understand and never read. It's easy. And the reason is, I kept reading and gradually could understand, it's this descending knowledge. You don't find the sun by taking a flashlight and looking for the sun. That's the ascending process of knowledge. It's not, the sun is self-luminous. You find the sun, it reveals itself. That's this descending knowledge system. So, hearing from my spiritual teacher, he said this message, and I found it intriguing. He said it a few times. That the jiva, that's the spark of life within, is both conscious and possesses consciousness. It's conscious and consciousness. That sounds cool. What does that mean? Because he said it several times, I knew it was important, but I couldn't exactly understand it. And then some time passed, and I found something that explained it. It's right from one portion of the Vedas called the Upanishads, and it says, it's a metaphor, just like a lamp is both luminous and it lights up objects in the room like pots and plates. So similarly, the Atma, the Jiva, living the spark of life within, is both conscious and consciousness. That consciousness is, it expands beyond who I am, just like I can hear the fan, the air conditioning system. It's not disturbing, but consciousness is extending out, or the lights in the room, etc. Through the medium of the knowledge-acquiring senses, consciousness extends out into the world around us. So the yoga system is to connect consciousness with that place of consciousness, the higher consciousness, the transcendental realm of consciousness. When you go further with the yoga system that you're now practicing and go and go and go, it leads to this meditation on the Paramatma. So within the body, the conscious spark of life is there. And side by side with the conscious spark of life is the supremely conscious entity. There's that little skinny guy, that's us, that's the Atma, and this is the Paramatma. And the same Paramatma is situated within a bird, within a tree, within an insect, within an elephant, within the person next to you. Same Paramatma. A reference from the Upanishads, giving you like a little picture of what the Vedas are teaching and what the yoga system is attempting to invite us to. It gives this example. Again, it's a metaphor. There's a bird in a tree who is enjoying the fruits of the tree. And he jumps from branch to branch, enjoying the fruits of the tree. There's a second bird not doing that. He's simply a witness. He's observing the conduct of the one that's trying to enjoy the fruits on the tree. It's a metaphor that is comparing a living entity that's trying to be the enjoyer of karma, and karma means action, but then there's results from that action, and trying to be the enjoyer of the results. That's material life. We work, we do something, we have activities of the body or the mind or the intelligence, and we want to become the enjoyers of that. That's our material life. That's this guy, this bird. And then situated within the body is another conscious entity that's not doing that, it's simply overseeing and sanctioning. This one. And the yoga system means to turn attention to, hey, let me put a pause for a moment on the enjoying the fruits of my activity program. Step back, pause a bit, and in a state of meditation or mindfulness, turn my attention to the supreme consciousness that's within. That's yoga. Connect our consciousness with that. Link. Yoga is, the English equivalent is yoke. To connect, there's a powerful ox, and you put a yoke around the ox, and whoosh, off you go. The root word is the same. Connect your consciousness with this Paramatma. Here's another illustration, different artist showing the same thing. And in practical terms, our relationships with one another. I mean, some of you know each other, some of you don't know each other. But those people that you know, how to have a real relationship that is who we really are, not just the covering. I mean, you deal with the covering part, but the real person inside, deep inside. Yoga and meditation help one to make that connection. So here's a little example. Here's a nice Chinese gentleman, and he has a friend, and they have some similarities. They're both Chinese. They both have beards. And they both have a spark of life within. It's individual, it's not the same one, but that's something that they share that's in common. And there's another thing that they share in common, and that is the same Paramatma that's within the heart of one is the same Paramatma that's in the heart of the other. The super soul. So a soul to soul relation, or the who we really are in a relationship with who another person really is, whatever that may be, parent and child, or friend and friend, or lover and beloved, or whatever it is. A transcendental connection, or a loving exchange that's beyond the temporary into this realm of transcendental loving exchange is made possible through yoga and meditation, spiritual relationships. And we're almost done. One of the primary means of meditation recommended in the Vedas and studied by people who study these things is through sound, or mantra. Little informal discussion. Some of you already have your mantra beads. Maybe not this Maha mantra I'm going to show you in a moment, but it's a very practical thing that you can do every day. It's a whole other discussion, how to and what the benefits are, and comparing this with that. But keeping it simple because of time. Man means mind, and tra means to deliver. So I'm holding on to this little electronic device that changes the slides. But if I was thirsty, and I want to get the water, I have to put that down so I can get the water and I can quench my thirst. Similarly, the mind is holding on to stuff, contamination. I was sharing this the other day. I have a friend, one of my friends, worked for Apple. And the specific thing he does with Apple is he helps to develop the technology that operates the Apple Watch. I don't know which thing, which function. But he was like really enthusiastic. I want to get you an Apple Watch. Oh, come on. I get an employee discount. It costs very little. Let me get you an Apple Watch. He was so enthusiastic. I said, okay. But then I found out to have an Apple Watch, you have to have an iPhone. Otherwise, certain things don't work. So now I have an iPhone and an Apple Watch. And about a month ago, or so, a little less, I was visiting an Ayurvedic clinic in India. That's another part of the Vedas, is medicine. You've heard of Ayurveda? Yes? No? Yes. He said yes, you say no. We'll tell you about it. It's a science of holistic natural health. So, I was in an Ayurvedic clinic getting, just kind of rejuvenation tune-up, nothing more than that. And I discovered something with my little Apple Watch, that it can tell you not only what the temperature is outside, but the quality of the air in your location. And I found out the quality of air when I first got there was in red, like extremely unhealthy. Then it rained, and then it got to be unhealthy instead of extremely unhealthy. There's a lot of stuff in the air that didn't belong there. So that told me I got an air purifier because I didn't want to get health rejuvenation in an unhealthy atmosphere. So it took care of but air is pure. Air isn't got junk in it, but people put junk in it, it becomes unhealthy. So also the mind has its natural pure state. And mantra helps take the junk out. The unwanted things become cleansed through sound. It works. So mantra meditation, not only on the positive sense, those of you that do meditation, from experience, you get a lift, you get an experience of a state of consciousness that's nice. It's accessible. It takes some time and discipline and practice of meditation, but it's nice. And the problem is, how do you stay there? Because there's this contamination. You can't just stay there. But there's a way to stay there, and that's you take the contamination out. That's what mantra meditation does. It works. It's recommended in the Vedas. It's something that when you've experienced it, you want to share with people. Hey. So that's what I'm doing. And this is an artist illustration of the material creation over here, and beyond the material creation, this is the buffer in between the two, and then it carries you into the transcendental realm. So here's the mantra. And this nice devotee is going to help you do a little experiment or experience of mantra meditation. Krishna, can you help and pass out the beads? So why don't you explain stuff while she passes out the beads? one. Take it away, Maharaja. It's your show.
You have to do.
She'll get to it. You just explain.
All right. So, next few minutes, what we're going to do is called mantra yoga or mantra meditation, and then it has another word in Sanskrit. It's called japa. Okay. So, what we do is we vibrate a spiritual sound on each of these beads. Okay? And the yoga in this part is we not only vibrate, we focus our attention on hearing the sound vibration that you are producing. The specialty of this yoga is the mantra that's in the card given to you. There are just 3 words, like 3 names, Hare, Krishna and Rama. So, the moment you vibrate this spiritual sound, because it doesn't belong to this material world, springs directly from the spiritual world. And the moment you give oral reception, it bypasses the lower stratas such as sensual, psychological and intellectual strata, enters our heart and removes the contamination, like all the negative emotions such as anger, fear, stress, anxiety, kind of all negative emotions. And also, over a period of time, it starts showing us who are we, who is our true self is. Okay? And then it connects us, the true self, not the covering, but the owner of the body, mind and intelligence, with that higher consciousness through this via medium, which is also spiritual, called the Maha Mantra, which is projected here. Okay? It's pretty simple how we do it is, just place the beads on your right hand, third finger, and we don't use the index finger. You know why? If I want to blame you, label you, point you, which finger I use, right? So we don't use it. So watch me, relax your fingers towards you, let the tassel pointing upwards, first let this be. Okay? Just relax your fingers towards you and watch me, not inside your hand, not one with the tassel, but one after that you hold the first bead with your thumb and middle finger. Okay? You got it? Then. So now, all you have to do is say this mantra and hear it. Now you are sitting here. Can you do anything elsewhere? No, right? But the mind starts distracting you after some time. It's okay. Just bring the mind back to hearing what you are saying. Ready? So, I'll say the pronunciation once and then we'll do this together. Okay? The pronunciation is very simple. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Got it? You can look at the mantra and say along with me. Ready? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. That's one mantra. So we pull one beat, not push. We'll pull one beat and move on to the next one and we repeat it. Ready? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Now we got the mantra, we have by heart, right? So now I request you to close your eyes, okay? For the next 2 minutes, don't plan for future and don't think about the past. Stay in the moment of presence of vibrating and hearing the sound vibration that you are producing of this mantra. Ready? Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama.
You're all absorbed. It's very nice.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Slowly open your eyes. So, thank you for the absorbed chanting. This way, we go all the way up to the end of the mala. Okay? And then we don't cross over, we just turn around and go back. Okay? That's the second way. Right? So, I request all of you to take this, mantra meditation. It takes 7.5 minutes by practice. That's all it takes. So start with one round and slowly, gradually, we can increase the round.
If you are interested in making this little experiment, you can take these with you, but just make a commitment that one time around in the beads each morning or sometime during the day for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Just as an experiment, see whatever else you do in your life, it stays the same. Just add that and see what happens. To see if there's any discussion on the whole topic, path of yoga, etc. You have something? No?
I'm not sure about it, but I don't know. I just think.
Okay, you look like you were
I think this is the first
ready
time.
to say something.
Well, it looked like this was the first time we've chanted before. That's all.
Okay.
But that's fair.
Well, you were pretty absorbed. You've chanted before.
Yeah.
Yeah. You chant daily?
Well, not daily.
Mostly. Mostly. Okay, good. Good. First question usually takes the longest and then it starts to roll. Yes?
I was thinking about the statement we have at the beginning that jiva is both consciousness and it's both conscious and possess consciousness.
Can you hear her in the back? Living entity is both conscious and consciousness. She's repeating that message. Go ahead.
So can I say the meaning of the word consciousness in this context refers to like how we perceive and respond to things.
Perception is part of, but it's not equivalent to consciousness. Consciousness is awareness, consciousness. So I can direct my conscious, so I'm in the room. Just like I noticed when I said, the fan and the air conditioning system, that some eyes went to look up the air, because I mentioned it, that the consciousness went there. Consciousness is where our awareness is directed. The seat of the consciousness, that's the Atma, the self, the living entity. And then consciousness is extended towards different objects. Now, your question? That's it? The rest is it? No?
Definition.
Ah.
So, can I say the implication of that statement is, like we can change our self through changing the consciousness.
Well, you can change yourself by changing consciousness. What do you mean by that? That can mean different things.
Like how we perceive things, how we understand things, how we respond to things, and what, say, level of determination.
Yeah, those things can change, but that doesn't change who we are. We are who we are, but it changes. So,
Evolutionary,
huh?
like an evolution.
Evolution of consciousness. Okay. So, where's this train going? What's the conclusion that you're contemplating?
I was thinking about what is the motivating principle for us to want to go to take on this evolution of creative process.
Ah.
And further, what does this goal? What's the goal of this process? First question is
Motivation and goal. Well, like, why would I want to become a meditator? Why would I want to get involved in consciousness elevation? What's in it for me? What's the objective? What am I trying to obtain or attain? Very important question. Because if we don't have a clear sense of goal, we're not going to be so motivated. If we have a clear sense of goal, we can make sacrifices to get that goal because it's a worthy goal. Just like, your students. You're making sacrifice. There's some things you're not doing, and there's some things you're focused on doing because you have a goal and it's important to you. So what's this higher consciousness thing? What's the motivator? Well, happiness. Everyone wants happiness. But the sense of happiness in the realm of the temporary isn't bringing real happiness. And I want real happiness. I can say subjectively or personally for me, ever since little, and then again different intervals of time, became very curious to know what is that higher reality. I wanted to know. That was the objective for me, the carrot, the goal. Take away all the temporary things and all the differences out there, that there's another reality. I know I have deep inside this conviction there's this higher reality. I want to experience that. I want to be connected with that. But it wasn't really clear what it was, nor how to get there. So that's me. So happy. I want to, there's the negative. I want to diminish stress, and anxiety and to things that Maharaja mentioned. I want to go beyond all that. And I want a life that's free from all of that. I want clean air instead of, unclean air. I want to experience that potential of higher consciousness. So for different people it's going to be slightly different. I want to experience that potential of higher consciousness that's evolving to the maximum stage, whatever that is. I want to go down that path and get closer and closer to that. And with that comes clarity, decision making, satisfaction in relationships, and things that are really important to me, but they're corollary to this higher consciousness goal. So, different people are different. They have a way of perceiving or articulating the goal that's their goal. According to Bhagavad Gita, the ultimate goal is a condition of love that's unrestricted and unconditional. And that's happiness, that's clarity, that's everything. So that's prema in the Sanskrit terminology. Loving relation with Krishna. We all want to love and be loved, and we're opposing loving propensity somewhere, and we want the maximum experience of that, including in the relationships of those who are dear to us, who we also love. We want this love divine. Anything?
Comment on that. I could comment on the question.
You want to comment on the question?
But
Go right ahead.
I don't know. I think that when you're saying what is the motivator to reach this, what was the higher state, this evolutionary? How did you phrase it? Go with this process. Well, I think that when you're doing it, you were making a choice, and maybe the choice begets more choice in order to achieve a 100% internal locus of control. What's kind of mysterious to me is why, for the opposite, when people are striving to have even greater choice, why did they then, on occasion, choose to give in to maybe a more worldly desire and to have all that choice taken away?
So you're
Once
saying
again.
motivation is also evolving as consciousness is evolving.
It sort of maybe feeds on itself like a feedback loop.
Yeah.
I don't know. That could be a way of answering why there's a sort of a pull towards that. I don't know.
Next time when I come, I'd like to sit in a circle, because then we can look at each other. And this interaction is nice. Anything?
So, I guess going on from what you're saying, to me, the whole purpose is a liberation from the seeking of purpose. So, in essence, a liberation from that desire that there must be something higher.
Yes.
And from there, from that liberation comes the connection with the actual reality that's
Yes.
not clouded
You
by
got it.
its delusion.
Your voice is soft, but you got it.
So it's sort of that liberation is what liberates you from pain, from suffering, from tiredness, from just from frustration of not getting what you want, because you know that there's nothing for you to get. It's just
Well, even you get something is limited and temporary,
right.
and that's not satisfying. And so, how do we get beyond that? I need higher consciousness to get beyond it. Exactly what Bhagavad Gita is teaching how to, and the mantra is by sound vibration taking you to that place. Just through sound. Fasten your seatbelt, zoom, off you go. Immediately, just as you said, at the beginning, explaining the mantra. Cool. Thank you. Is Paul with you? Yes. Oh, okay.
I got a question.
Okay. I saw her hand over here.
I'm just curious about just your appearance. So, what is the significance of the markings on your forehead?
Thanks for asking. It's one of my favorite questions. It means, in simple terms, the body is a temple. Inside the temple is God. That's what it means. Just like if you pass by a row of buildings, and over there you see a cross. So that means it's a church, because there's a marking that says this is a house of God, or mosque, or something. So this is a mark that we place after bathing that is to remind us inside there's a presence of God. And so we should treat the house of God accordingly. That means stuff goes in and comes out, respectful of this temple or housing place of God. He's inside. So we treat the body like that and try to remember that, and it's also reminding others, even if they don't know exactly what it is, because it's something to remember. Is to help us be mindful of that reality. God is within. This is formless supreme is within. Someone over here? Yeah.
So I guess earlier we were talking about consciousness, and I want to go into the sense of self and in that realm.
Okay.
We're talking about like Nirvana and stuff like that, right? And so I was thinking, with the sense of self, it's kind of like, in other words, like the ego, right?
But not the false ego, the true ego. There's a distinction.
Okay. But I just in the sense where we're trying to not have ego. So without the ego, we are basically nothing. I mean, we are everything, but yet also we are.
Well, no,
nothing
wait.
at the same time.
I'm under some editing there.
Okay.
There's a false ego, and that's who we aren't. And then there's who we really are. So take away who we aren't, and you're not left with nothing, or everything. You're left with who you are. You're an individual, according to Bhagavad Gita. Very tiny. But we exist, and that existence is, the Latin word is ego, or the Sanskrit word is Atma, it's a self. It's who we are. And that self, from the image before it, has spiritual form.
So with the, I guess if we categorize the false ego, that would be who we are in terms of our careers, our what
The temporary.
The temporary. Okay.
And then when the temporary is over, we go on to the next temporary, reincarnation. And then we get another temporary, who we are. But it's not who we are.
So I guess in the sense that we have to realize that you know, we have two kinds of ego, the true kind and the false kind, right? But without the false kind, I mean, we won't really have cultures or traditions or you know, countries wouldn't exist, and occupation, we wouldn't have occupations.
Well, that's interesting conjecture, but here's a different picture. You've heard the phrase, as above, so below. No? Okay, I'll say it this way. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, there's a description of a tree where the branches are growing down and the roots going up. And no such tree, branches growing down. But the reflection is where the branches are growing down and the roots are growing up. And on the other shore of the lake, or whatever it's reflecting on, there's the tree. So there's the tree of this spiritual reality, the transcendental reality. And we're looking at the reflection, the false ego, etc. But over here, let's say, oh, but this is an apple tree. In the reflection, there's an apple. But there's no substance there because it's just a reflection. But there's a real apple, otherwise there wouldn't be a reflection over here in the reflection of an apple. So, in this transcendental realm, or spiritual realm, there's all variety. It's for that reason there's variety here. But here, it's just a reflection, and it's not substantial. It's like he was saying, it's limited and temporary. You know, there's no apple in that. He's got a handful of water, but no apple. No, so negation of this doesn't mean negation of the real. There is variegated forms and activities, and using your word occupation, you know, nature, personality.
What I was thinking was that there wouldn't be any of that, because
But there
in the
is.
sense that we're all just one in a sense.
But that's negation. But beyond the negation, there's the positive. I know very well the thought process that you're speaking of. I'm not unfamiliar with it at all. But negation doesn't mean negation of the reality. Negation of the illusion doesn't mean negation of the reality. There's variegatedness in reality. Without the temporary, the limited and temporary feature of the reflection. So I shared with you a motivator for me, because that was the topic she brought up. There's another reality. I don't know what it is. Fortunately, I know that I don't know what it is. Some people think they know what it is, but I know I don't. But I know it exists. So in searching for that reality, here's one option, one that you're speaking of. Here's another option, one that I'm speaking of. There is this state of oneness, but that oneness is a oneness of complete harmony amongst all the diversity. No disharmony, no us and them. Something similar to it, you know, the strife between one nation and another nation because this is my territory and my resources. Get out of here. You know, the tariff war, all that stuff. Doesn't, you know, the spiritual reality doesn't have that contamination. It's pure. Variety without the impurity, without the false ego, and, you know, the us and them consciousness. There's a oneness, but with all variety. That's the higher reality. And so I'm saying that, how do I know anything like that? It's within these, the Vedas describe the picture that you describe and this other reality, and says, chapter 14, the one that you're speaking about, the basis and support of that is the person, Bhagavan, Krishna. And that person, there's relationships, and there's love, and there's activities, and there's exchanges, and there's varieties of emotion. The oneness is the oneness of love, with all variety.
Thank you.
So you have something?
Yes. I'm curious about the monastic lifestyle.
Monastic lifestyle.
I just wonder, like, what do monks do at that time?
What do we do?
Yeah.
We twiddle our thumbs. No. According to your nature. We each have a body. And we have a mind, so we have a psychophysical nature, and we do things according to our psychophysical nature. In a monastic lifestyle, so that, like, say, there's a community. And in that community, some people, their nature is they do this. They like to do cooking. Some people like to do study. Some people like to do accounting. Some people like to dance. Some people like to sing. Some people like to manage. Some people like to teach. Some people like to this and some. So you do those things according to your nature. But, you know, at the core is something that spiritualizes everything. You know, meditation and yoga. And then there's expression of when that consciousness becomes stimulated and awakened, you do different services that connect with others. There's loving exchanges with others with this Paraman, or the Supreme Soul at the center. So that can be done in the family, it can be done in a monastery. And they're equally good. It's depending on our nature. What's essential is the core, and then the lifestyle that suits our nature. So the lifestyle I'm living suits me. I like it. I'm not at all uncomfortable. I'm not feeling, and I'm I'm twiddling my thumbs. I'm very active, according to my nature, and I'm happy with my lifestyle.
Doesn't sound too different from, like, the lifestyle outside of the monastery, minus the spiritual aspect.
I've lived in a monastery, and now I'm carrying the monastery with me. In whatever situation, it's a stage. The perambulatory monastery, stage of sannyas, where there's no worldly connection, monetarily, and so I have no income, I have no bank account, I just live by Krishna's mercy, and He takes care of me. So the monastery was there to incubate that consciousness. And now the stage of sannyas, detachment from, and acting according to my nature. I like to teach, so here I am. I like to interact with and care for people, so I do that too. Spend a lot of time doing that. I don't have to live in a physical structure that says, okay, I'm living in a monastery doing that at this stage. I've been living this lifestyle for 48 years, nothing but. It suits me. So anyway, it's a monastic lifestyle without the four walls. The world is this monastery. doesn't start there, but it has evolved like that for me, at least. Yeah.
Do you know anyone who's achieved Nirvana?
Well, Buddha achieved Nirvana.
Huh?
And there's many, by the way, there's many Buddhas. Buddha means that one has achieved Nirvana. The goal is to become. Buddha has the same Sanskrit root word as buddhi, which means intelligence. I mentioned that. So when you experience that, you become a Buddha, or one who possesses buddhi, a possessor of spiritual intelligence. And the message, so the answer, your question is, has anyone? The answer is yes. There are lots of Buddhas.
Would they, earlier you mentioned that they would cease to exist. Would they cease to exist physically or
Say it again. I'm not sure what you're asking.
So earlier you mentioned that once they achieve Nirvana, they would cease to exist.
Well, that's the goal. They go to the notion is, when the body is kaput, you during this lifetime you achieve Nirvana and no more birth, and you go out of existence. Doesn't even mean you have to go somewhere because you go out of existence. Again, there's different brands of Buddhism. Nothing exists. That's like the fundamental. What exists? Nothing. We think that something exists, and that's our problem. Because we have desires to enjoy that something. You have to go beyond that. No more suffering. Again, there's different brands. Yeah.
So I've heard a sort of statement that the entire of reality is just God playing hide and seek with himself or herself. But so
not very complimentary fiction.
Well, if you were to obtain this nirvana and then sort of just cease to exist, would there be a point where sort of your consciousness becomes bored and sort of decides to play the game again?
Yeah. I think I get what you're saying. First of all, we exist. Sat is the Sanskrit word. We exist. So to think that you stop existing, it's another illusion because you exist. So following what you said, if I get to the stage of I stop my material existence, but we exist, and so after some time you come back to material existence because you exist. That is to say, you have to take shelter of something. That's why yoga it's a connection with something. It's not just cessation, it's connection with something. And I've been saying higher consciousness, also the supreme soul within, connect my consciousness with that supreme conscious entity. That's shelter. Then I don't come back. Then it's no hide and seek anymore. It's who we really are. Like this, diversity of activity. Eternally. We don't have a conception of that because we have experience of the temporary. So taking help from Bhagavad Gita, there's a reflection. Okay, we'll do it differently. Here's a mirror. Over here is an apple. And there's the reflection of the apple in the mirror, but you turn the mirror that way and it's gone. No more reflection of the apple. But the apple still exists.
Right.
So the spiritual reality exists. We can go like this and now I don't exist anymore.
So, I think,
But I exist.
well, I guess I'm not really meaning into in this life. I mean, I'm saying more in the sort of the
Transcendental
cyclical-
life.
Right, the cyclical afterlife, the transcendental. Like, say, if your goal is to sort of perfect each sort of iteration.
Yeah. So, going back to the premise of your question, the state of nirvana is another illusion because we exist. Eternally we exist. So we can't go out of existence. That I can cease material activity, that can be done, but that's what nirvana is. So has anyone reached? You can stop material existence. But it's like anesthesia. And after some time, and so have you had anesthesia before? Yeah. So have I. Some procedure. Consciousness is there. The conscious entity is there. Consciousness gets covered, so deeply covered, you can't feel anything. Nor is there a sense of passage of time. Hours, days can pass. There's no sense of passage of time when you wake up. It's not like when you wake up in the morning. There's a sense of. So under anesthesia, there's no sense of time. There's no sense of existence, but you exist. When the anesthesia, so this nirvana thing is like anesthetized consciousness. You still exist, and when anesthesia wears off, then you do activities again. So, what's that beyond nirvana state? What do you do in the perfected state? That was today's message. We have a spiritual identity in a spiritual form. We have varieties of activities in that state of consciousness. That's this yoga ladder. And there's a realm where there's nothing temporary. No false ego. No us and them. It's all unity. So, does that address your question?
I think so.
Interesting group this evening. What's next? You got another shot at it. You want to ask one of your amazing questions? As he says.
Question about nature.
Huh?
About your nature, you decided to be monastic because it's your nature. Like, how do we find what our nature is?
Well, one of the things that helps you find your nature is sound vibration that isn't contaminated, and you hear it, and you become cleansed, and you can discover your nature. Because the coverings get taken away, and then what's left is your nature. Then another is a mirror. Meaning persons that aren't living your autobiography, and they can see your nature even better than you can see your nature. And then, in addition to teachings, there's a teacher. And good teachers, if they're just gifted, they can see what somebody's nature is. Just like some people are good at music. Some people aren't. They practice and practice, and they get really good at music. It's a gift that was given to them. So good teachers have that gift. So having a good teacher, getting lots of cleansing from sound vibration, introspecting in the light of that wisdom, and you get closer and closer, a little bit of the refinement of understanding who your nature is, what your nature is. Okay, I think we're good. What's next? You have refreshments?